are you comfortable as possibly being Prime Minister of austerity?
No, that's simply not the case. Actually, government spending in the UK right now is at very high levels. Historically, over this Parliament, it's grown at very high levels, even in real terms after the impact of inflation. So I think any commentary or accusation that that's what's happening is just simply unfounded. And we're at a point now, given how people are feeling, given the amount that's being spent, where I think the priority has got to be lowering the tax burden.
That was UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak speaking with Bloomberg's Francine Lacqua in an exclusive conversation addressing concerns of austerity in the UK. We'll touch base with Fran in about an hour from now. Mohammed Al-Arian touching base with us, writing in, here's the email. Apple phone happened to me after I agreed to the iOS upgrade. TK, batteries getting drained worldwide. Worldwide.
Battery gate.
It's battery gate all over again.
Yeah.
Look, live in it. Live in it.
Yeah, Chris emails in from Poughkeepsie, and
anecdotal evidence is important.
The Verge, Apple's iPhone battery gate settlement. John, the settlement payment should be going out soon.
Am I getting a check?
You'll get a payout from Apple on your
put that towards my new iPhone.
For your next iPhone.
Precisely.
That's how it works.
Equities on the S&P look a little something like this. We're pulling back just a touch. No drama here. We're down by 0.2% on the S&P 500. It's EK in the FX market. G10's a bit of a snooze. 109.52. Yeah. EM getting a whole lot more interesting. Javier Milei over in Argentina, touching down here, by the way, in America.
It's going to be interesting to see, to say the least. Right now, we're going to get a briefing here from Damian Sassower, Chief Emerging Markets Credit Strategist for Bloomberg, and of course, also Bloomberg Business and Sports, really paying attention to college football. Massive surveillance correction. I watched a game. Indiana was killing Purdue, and boy, did I get this wrong. Boiler up, I guess, is what happened. Can you make money in sports on college football?
Only if you're funded in peso. No, I'm kidding. I think really at the end of the day, college football is a crapshoot like most things in this world. But the Iron Bowl, I mean, Michigan OSU, I watched that game with parties from both sides, and it was such an awesome game. I mean, it was just back and forth. And look, I mean, OSU won the battle on offense, but they lost the turnover battle and they lost the game.
The strategy on this has got to be clearer than the strategy on Argentina. How do you play? How do you bet on Argentina?
Well, I guess you don't bet against batteries, Jonathan, because there's plenty of lithium in Argentina. No, I mean, really, Javier Milei is obviously a bit of a firebrand in terms of what he stands for. He stands for dollarization. He wants to burn down the BCRA, the Banco Central de la República Argentina, their central bank. Wasn't that nice? It rolled up the tongue.
Does he still want to do that?
He certainly does, but not at the pace I think that we would have other. I mean, you have to understand the central bank is funding the entire public sector in Argentina through LELIQs, which are the short-term interest rate, peso-denominated interest kind of structures, instruments, sorry, that's the word I'm looking for. And you just can't take 1 trillion peso-denominated debt and just wipe it away and hope that everything's going to go away. You're not going to be able to pay employees. You're not going to be able to feed your economy. And so, dollarization's probably a little bit longer down the road. But look, this is an economy that's running 143% year-over-year CPI. GDP is going to be down 2.5% to 3% this year. The central bank is targeting a fiscal deficit of 1.92% in order to make the IMF happy relative to GDP. It's going to be 5% this year, Lisa. So they've got their own problems, and it makes all the sense in the world, not just for Milei to be here in the U.S. today, but to have stopped in Brazil on the way up and to have visited Lula here.
Before we get to the international politics, just focus domestically just for a moment. Do we know who's going to run the central bank? And ultimately,
Luis Caputo, yeah. So
does it matter?
It does, because we're harking back to those days under Macri when they issued that century bond that you and I have talked about repeatedly. Federico Sturzenegger, who was the central banker, the head of the BCRA, who really blew up and started the bank run in Argentina back in 2018. Caputo succeeded him, so he's been around the block. He's dealt with the IMF. He's dealt with Cristina Georgieva. They've already spoken. He's a good choice, but there aren't many good choices in Argentina given their recent history.
The IMF loves the establishment. This guy is the anti-establishment candidate.
Yeah.
But he is going to do effectively some of the stuff they'd like him to do, right? Which is deep cuts to government spending.
There's a lot of things he does stand for, which I don't think we're talking or covering enough. I mean, his view on feminist rights, on abortion, on China, on the Pope. I mean, not the greatest views if you believe everything he said, but then again, he's backtracking on a lot of the things he said. So it's getting to a point where I don't really know what to believe. Who is the man? I mean, the markets just want to believe so much that Argentina is on the way back, but investors like myself have gotten burned before.
So you had the phones tapped and you were listening to his conversation with Georgieva, and I'm curious, what do you think the tenor of those conversations in all seriousness really are between the IMF and the leadership in Argentina currently?
All right, so where are we? They made a $2.6 billion payment on their $43 billion in debt to the IMF back in October. That's a very good sign that they want to continue doing business with the IMF. They don't want to be blocked out of U.S. capital markets or global capital markets. But, you know, what they need to do, and in order to get the ship righted, it's just going to be a lot. The seventh review of their extended fund facility agreement with the IMF was set for the end of this month. They're not supposed to be talking about any of this in Washington or New York this week, by the way. But I'm sure that will come up. And, you know, what structural and economic reforms does the IMF need to see in order to permit the flow of capital, permit the flow of dollars into their economy, even if they want them? I mean, that's another question right now.
Well, Argentina is a specific story. They've defaulted, what, 5 times over the past 100 years, something of that nature. For those keeping count? Yeah, sure. There has been a lot of concerns about inflation for a long period of time, but there's something that they have in common with a lot of developed market nations as well, which is that a lot of people have gotten used to debt, have gotten used to spending more than you can pay for, and are going to have a very hard time weaning themselves of this. How much is this going to be an issue across a much broader swath of the developing world in particular, but not to mention the developed world, in a way that really isn't being priced in?
Well, we can kick the can down the road as long as we want to, so long as the markets will allow us to do that, Lisa. And in the case of Argentina, you know, if you want to take the bull, you know, case, vaca muerta, lithium deposits we just talked about, soy and agricultural exports, opening up the economy. EPF is up. EPF has an ADR in the U.S. It's up 65% since November 16th. One of the largest, you know, it's the national oil producer out of Argentina. Grupo Galicia, their big finance conglomerate, is up 30% since this election. So, you know, investors are taking this business-friendly environment seriously, and they do have potential sources of future revenue to help offset that debt load.
What is the most efficacious way to play China? If somebody has a belief, it's, John was mentioned, sub 3% growth, or you're more optimistic than that. What's the way that Damian Sassower speculates on a China recovery?
I think, you know, the thing that people aren't talking about China is what is the one item between the U.S. and China that both the Republican and Democratic Party agree on going into an election year? Tariffs, and the fact that they should go up. And what does that mean for dollar yuan? It's probably not a good thing, but, you know, again, really, I think China's going to follow the broader EM currency base, and that's going to be largely a function of, do you believe in a soft landing, or do you believe in a recession in 2024? And there are good trades on either side. I mean, generally speaking, if you believe in a soft landing, you want to be long EM G10 X dollar versus dollar, and vice versa. If you believe in a recession, you're long dollar versus G10 FX and EM along with it. So that's kind of the way you have to balance yourself.
Damian, this was great. Thank you, sir. It's good to see you. Damian Sassower, we're getting so much stick about your coverage of Purdue. How'd you get it so wrong? You said you watched the game.
I watched the game, and then I turned it off like 10 minutes ago. They scored 17 points in the back half. I mean, I may lose my job over this.
You missed the back half.
I missed the back.
You just come out on air on
X
Monday
number of
and said
minutes,
they lost.
and they weren't even like in the game. They were comatose.
Okay.
And then boom, what a comeback!
That's how much college sports you watched.
You guys nailed
over
it.
The weekend.
You asked me about,
right.
you know, Leclerc did great in the Formula One
He
too.
did great. Ferrari not so much. Just Max Verstappen absolutely dominating.
It was a lot of fun.
The only race that Red Bull this year didn't win, I think, was Singapore with Carlos Sainz. They won every other race. In world sports, I can't think of many dominant seasons in any sport like the one we've just seen in Formula One this year.
But was the race boring? I mean, with the way it was spread out, the last 10 laps of the race, is that the way you run a world-class sports organization? They were just going through the motions.
It is the difficulty of Formula One, Tom.
How
We've
do
had
they
these
change
long periods of dominance. They've tried to change it a million times.
Okay, I don't
We've seen it with Red Bull, before that Mercedes, before that Red Bull. You saw it with Ferrari in the late 90s and early 2000s. And it's the difficulty, I think, part of the difficulty conquering this sports market in this country. Netflix has gone only so far, but ultimately, when you know the outcome of the game before you start, it's not exciting, is it, Damian?
No,
it really isn't.
No, it's not. I mean, we were just talking about the EPL too. I mean, like the fact that, you know, you have a salary cap in the NFL is what makes it so interesting. It keeps it so parity-driven. The Broncos, the Titans, the Giants, the Packers, they all won this week. I mean, people had written them off. And now they're actually in the playoffs. I was at the Jet game, by the way, and we're not going to talk about that.
We're
not going to talk about it.
It was that bad?
I left at the half.
Ooh.
It was unwatchable.
Mohammed left at the first quarter.
Unwatchable. Unwatchable. My son's in from college, and we left
Is
at the
Rodgers
half.
coming back?
There's talk that I hope not at this point. I don't know. I hope so. I don't know. I don't know what I hope for anymore.
Sit the rest of the season out.
I got to talk to Mohammed. I mean, I'm sweating.
Did you have
thinking about it
Mohammed's
right now.
tickets? 50-yard line, 6 rows up.
I saw him up there. You know, he wouldn't turn around.
He's aged.
Look at me.
He's aged. You know, that's all there is to it.
You know the secret about Mohammed? He won't mind me sharing this. He sits in the nosebleeds. Seriously.
Yeah.
Kind of guy that would fly coach domestically, which I always moan at him about, but yeah. You'd probably find him in the nosebleeds.
He's up in the nosebleeds?
Loves the nosebleeds.
I was there in tennis
Mets and
when Emma
Jets
was playing.
just sort of torturing himself
I'm like waving
every
at
year.
people.
It's
in various
the
sports.
spirit. It's the spirit that you get there.
The spirit of losing.
Really?
Is that right?
No.
Is that right? From
No,
New
it's
York.
spirit.
This is Bloomberg.
Joy.
The shape of the